Hey guys, this is Tim and James with TabletopTerrors.com, and today we're coming at you with a campaign architect video to explain why your races might be boring. We're going to explain why applying one stereotype to a race is sometimes a bad idea.
Like a whole race.
Like a whole race.
An entire race at once, yeah.
And we're going to give you some ways to maybe change it up so that they're not static and flat and, you know, you get some cool interactions.
Yeah. So let's jump in, and we're going to focus on a race that doesn't get much attention when it comes to this stuff. We're going to dig into tieflings. So here's how you can take your tieflings and also apply these concepts to any race in your campaign and make them a little less boring, more alive. So let's dig in. So to talk about tieflings, we're actually going to talk about elves. But what do I mean? Well, a quick and dirty trick to immediately shake up a culture is to take a different culture and immediately apply all of those details and just watch the two crash together like waves on rocks.
So to talk about the common woodland elf for a minute, basically sometimes they're all just like Lee Pace from the Hobbit movies. They have long hair, they ride a really cool animal mount, they have long bows, they're very slender, very sleek, and just that's an elf.
Graceful.
Yeah, that's an elf. But
so take that elf and then, well, let's talk about your basic tiefling. Your basic tiefling is an outcast, has the blood of Asmodeus, typically untrusted by society and untrusting of society, nomadic people. What happens if you take those two things and kind of crash them together and then just see what happens? So let's do that.
So we're going to look at the Greenock Thane, or the Broken Hand in our world. And this is a subset of tieflings that we've more or less just applied some of the common elf tropes to.
Right.
So these are tieflings that they live in the forest, but you know they're not very fond of it. So what we've done here is we've taken normal tieflings and we have sort of added a little bit of a twist to them with the woodland thing.
Right, because the common wood elf loves the forest, connects with the forest and nature and so on. So we thought, let's take that part, put the tiefling into the forest, but make it so they don't dig it so much. But through, we think probably a religious sense of duty, they believe that staying in a location that is something that they don't like is it's what fortifies them as people. It's going through that crucible of guarding and living in a land you don't love that proves how dedicated you are and how strong of a warrior you are.
And that in itself opens up countless possibilities for adventure hooks or really cool NPCs, and there's no reason you can't take something that, you know, everybody already has a predisposition or
right.
a
What
predefined
else?
Concept of,
Yeah.
and you can just, you know. So really what we're just doing is sort of pivoting, giving it a little bit of a 1 degree off to open up countless possibilities.
Exactly. So you're asking yourself, Tim, James, you've just reskinned tieflings to be wood elves. Wow, you're making a video about that? Well, there are a couple more degrees that we're going to add to it. First of all, making the tieflings not like the forest is 1 degree off from the elves who typically love it. But now we're going to add what we call a unique identifier. That is something that's just like it sounds. It's something that is very different for this particular race or this culture subset of the race, so that people would say, oh, well, that's what they're known for. For the Greenock Thane, or the Broken Hand, we thought it would be cool if they've cultivated and developed a unique, arcane way to cook foods. This is basically what we're doing is we're reskinning potions and making it so that if you go through a Greenock Thane village, and if you have Greenock Thane food and so on, that's their major export. It's like potions, so it can be jerkies and, you know, different cured meats and even drinks and things like that. And we thought that that would be a cool, unique identifier, which also opens up a bunch of layers of, you know, city building and world building and how they fit into the world.
So this doesn't just work with elves. So today we're doing the tiefling example, but we can, in the same fashion, mash them together with dwarves.
Yeah, if you don't like elves.
And so we'll give you a few examples of some stone builder tieflings that we came up with. We haven't named these guys yet, but basically we're going to take some of the same traits that dwarves have, and like the stone building and the great craftsmanship and the beautiful underground caverns, and say that the tieflings are doing that. Now again, that's cheesy if you're just there. But then we go into our degrees of difference. And,
and why?
Exactly, our degrees of difference and our unique identifier, and explain why we can push that a little further and make nobody realize the difference.
Right. So you're thinking, well, guys, so you just took tieflings and made them dwarves. What's so great about that? Well, here's the thing. We're showing you the creative process here, but if you didn't hear the creative process and we just described the races to you, you'd probably think that they were interesting and wouldn't connect the two. And that's the idea. So let's talk about these stone builder tieflings that we haven't really named yet. We're thinking of basing them on a Germanic culture, so like, Steins and Achs and, different like...
Bratwurst.
The Bratwurst tieflings. What we're doing is we want to make them diggers and builders just like the dwarves. But again, take it a degree different. They dig because they are looking to find their demonic nemesis, or nemesis, the Uldrag, which is they are digging to find these creatures to fight them and kill them. So where the dwarves, they dig to find riches, and they're very interested in getting deeper in the earth. These stone builder tieflings, they dig because they have a sense of honor and duty to continue to press down further and further to fight their nemesis.
Exactly. And so, as Tim said, one, if you don't share this creative process, you've come up with a really cool concept and can really flesh it out. And two, these are all details that the PCs will eventually find out over time. Of course, you don't spill this all out, but when the PCs go into a mine expecting to see some dwarves, because that's what's usually there, they run into a tiefling, and then you slowly uncover everything, and you can really blow your PC's minds with a few simple concepts mashed together, twisted up, and changed just a little bit.
Yep. So another degree of difference with these tieflings is, these stone builder tieflings is, and you'll see, it's very basic. We're just taking the opposites and usually applying them, which is a good starting point. We want to make these tieflings, they're not fond of ale, and they're not fond of brewing. In their culture, we wanted to make it so that alcohol is actually illegal. It's considered, putting yourself in a weakened state on purpose is weak. So, to them, and that opens up a whole bunch of like prohibition and things like that, like
really
like
cool
crazy,
stuff.
Like dark underground breweries, but they also don't have any reverence for gold or treasure. They see it as a means to an end. So when they find these, mystical, gems, and when they find gold and things like that, they take it, they sell it, and they finance their war with the Uldrag. So that is just one degree different, but it makes an interesting group of tieflings that live underground. So let's talk about the unique identifier.
So the unique identifier for these stone builder tieflings is that they revere song and theater, unlike many other races.
Right.
Being a tiefling songwriter is a highly sought position, and it's not something anybody can do.
Even a performer, you can't just, there aren't street performances or anything. It's very militant. They revere it. It's not an art for them. It's almost like a religion.
Exactly. They have very rigorous tenets as to what is considered a song or a piece of theater.
Exactly.
And so, again, we're taking something that doesn't seem like tieflings and putting it together. And these particular stone builder tieflings, they sing with severity, and they put the same fervor into these old arts as they do war and battle.
Right. And we thought that would be an interesting, unique identifier to plug in with. And again, we've taken dwarves who sing and drink and dig for treasure. We literally just did the opposite and slapped it on a tiefling. When we say it like that, it might sound like, well, duh. But think about it and be honest with yourself. If we wouldn't have told you that that's what we were doing, this would probably have sparked a bunch of questions and thoughts of, wow, that's an interesting race of tieflings. So that's what we did. There's one more thing we want to tell you about all this. So here's our final point.
So an important thing to remember about this is we're trying to give you one more concept for your toolbox, but this doesn't mean that everything in your world can't sometimes be tropey. If you change everything, you'll be stuck trying to invent everything and you'll never run an adventure. So the important thing is you can have underground dwarves and you can have wood elves,
and even nomad tieflings. You know, you should still have little subsets of all of that. This is just, if you're zooming in on a specific country or continent, this is a way to flavor that so that you don't go across the whole country and find out that these dwarves are exactly the same as these dwarves, and these tieflings are exactly the same as these tieflings.
Exactly. So one of the most important things to remember is that whether you're changing stuff up and mashing things together or using something that a lot of people already sort of know, not every person in that race will adhere to those guidelines. Not every underground, stone building tiefling will love the music or will be that into war and battle, and that's what makes people interesting.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to look at your actual culture, your actual surroundings, and think about how you can get 10 people in a room from the same culture who live in the same neighborhood, and they'll still have different thoughts, different ideas. This stirs conflict, and it can also make a lot of really cool subplots for within the race. So you've got, maybe there is someone from the Broken Hand, that tribal tiefling, clan that we were talking about before. They don't think they should share the food with the outside world, even though it's their major export.
Exactly.
Things like that, people who disagree with even the variances you've made can create conflict, and really conflict is story, and those are the best adventures.
Exactly. So if you handle the broader strokes of a really cool race or culture, you can then dig down and decide what creates a conflict there and make really cool adventures and stories.
Yeah. So in closing, the way to not make your races boring or anything in your campaign world is don't paint with a broad stroke and then not zoom in anywhere, because it'll feel fake and like you painted with all broad strokes. So hopefully this has helped, and you can see more of these kinds of things obviously on the channel, so subscribe right here, Tabletop Terrors. You can also check out tabletopterrors.com, and if you like the examples that we used in this video, you can download a Pay What You Want PDF that specifically goes into detail with those few tiefling ideas we used. Use them in your home game, and again, it's pay what you want. If you think it's worth something, absolutely, we appreciate it. If not, take it, use it, and we hope that it's really helpful for you.
So, and especially if you decide to use that, let us know how it goes.
Absolutely.
Let us know how you did it. Let us know what you changed. Comment below, comment on the website. Again, just subscribe, sign up for our mailing list, and we'll be back at you with another video next week.
All right. Love you guys.
See you later.
Thank you.